Hello, everyone. I think we can start. We have 32 attendees watching. Great. Hi, everyone, and welcome to What If Reports Could Speak webinar. I'm Cesara Pânzari, and I'm Storyteller's product content expert. Today here with me are Matteo Harti, which is the Chief Product Officer at InvestSuite, as well as Davide Mutoni, which is our AI Tech Lead. Together, we will showcase why client portfolio reports can be much more than they are at the moment, and how InvestSuite one-of-a-kind solution Storyteller can help with that. We'll specifically explore how Storyteller literally gives a voice to financial reports, transforming them into captivating podcasts. But before we dive in, let me quickly introduce InvestSuite. InvestSuite is a B2B invest-tech provider that offers, just like the name says, a suite of invest-tech solutions. So as you may see on the far left, our products contain an execution-only investment platform, which is called Self-Investor, as well as a robo-advisor. In the middle, you can see our portfolio construction tool, Portfolio Optimizer. And to the left, to the right, you'll see the product we'll be zooming in today, which is Storyteller. Storyteller is a narrative-driven and API-powered tool that allows companies to elevate their client reporting in a highly personalized as well as scalable way, which we will demonstrate later on. If we move forward, you'll see our a bit more. You'll see our agenda, which will be as follows. First, we will explain why there is need for better client reporting in today's age, as well as how Storyteller can help with that. Then we will show Storyteller in action, both at the front and back end level. And finally, we'll reserve 10 minutes for any of the questions you might have. Before we dive right in, I'll ask you some questions because we're interested to see what might be the case for client reporting in your company, or what's your opinion on that? So in the Q&A section, you might see 3 questions now. The first one, what do you usually expect from client reporting? Another one, how do you handle clients with varying levels of data literacy when presenting reports periodically, of course? And what are the key challenges your company faces when dealing with client reporting? We'll wait for 1 minute before we move forward. I'm super curious to know this. It will help us a lot, if not in this webinar, maybe in future webinars or other activities to tackle these matters. So it would be super nice to find out your opinion. I don't see a lot of response right now, but I'll leave this area for Q&A open. So at any time you feel more inclined to participate, please do so. At the end of the webinar, there will be also 10 minutes reserved for questions. So yeah, we'll be looking forward to that as well. Without further ado, I'll let Mathieu jump right into explaining why we need better client reporting and why Storyteller exists. Mathieu?
Thank you, Cesara, and welcome everyone. So why Storyteller exists? It's because investment reporting is an often ignored touch point in the digital wealth journey, or at least that's what we find. Reports often look a little bit what you see in front of you most of the time. Some ratios, a lot of numbers, some charts, more or less good-looking ones, but very little hows and whys, and very little explanation as to why those numbers are there, and they therefore don't lead to a lot of understanding on the part of client. And we find that's too bad for multiple reasons, because it's a touch point that has to happen often regulatorily, but then it's not really taken full advantage of. And if you're going to have to talk to your client, you might as well make it a delightful experience, is uh, is our intuition. So the objective with Storyteller is really to help you drive new levels of engagement and take that reporting moment to improve relationship, increase trust, and we'll show you a little bit more later exactly all in detail how we do that. But the idea is that Storyteller can automatically generate reports that are personalized and that explain the how and why of your portfolio, as you can see here on an example of our web version. It is made for you. It is a lot more interactive than static reports, a lot nicer to explore, and we'll go into some of the specific sections uh, afterwards. Oops. Uh, and now PowerPoint doesn't want me to. Okay. The objective really to for Storyteller is to transform those reports into story, as the name implies. Um, and because humans do respond much better to stories than they respond to reports, it creates an emotional bond that reports often cannot generate. And it also helps get the point across a lot better than reports or facts, even often. If you remember when you were a kid, all those warning turned into story, like the Little Red Riding Hood. And for those who issue storyteller reports, um, they're often not only a great opportunity to enhance the client experience, but also to save time while doing so, since a storyteller is generated in about 30 to 60 seconds automatically based on a standard set of input data that then outputs those highly personalized, engaging stories. So as you can see on the slide here, um, the stories, the time saved, what we've also paid a lot of attention to in how those stories are generated is that you can customize them or configure them so that they sound like you, while allowing you to meet your compliance requirement, because telling great stories shouldn't come at the expense of compliance. So the way stories are generated, and Davide will tell you a bit more about that later, is through a rules-based text database that goes and takes the right pieces of pre-approved written text based off of the computation that are made with the input about the portfolio, um, so that the text database outputs text that is always, at least in all of its little snippets, pre-approved. This also means that you can really ensure that the storyteller reports speak like you. A lot of financial institutions have spent decades, if not close to a century, perfecting how they speak to their clients, and using automation shouldn't degrade that experience. And it's Storyteller is made so that you can really imprint your personality on the text you generate, but then do that at scale. We've identified three main use cases where Storyteller reports can add value. Of course, there are the individual portfolios, which we mostly stressed up until now, but also we find that it gets great traction as fund commentary because fund managers need to explain the how and why of their funds as well to people or institutions that buy their funds. And Storyteller creates really engaging, readable material for how a fund performs. And this is also true for pension portfolios, which tend to be somewhere between a fund and an individual portfolio, and also have their own challenge since a private bank client is not necessarily the same as someone who has a retirement portfolio through work, because they didn't put the same amount of thinking or time into choosing their provider, because sometimes you don't even get to choose. The levels of financial literacy might be different. The stakes might be different as well, and so it's important when telling stories to adapt it to the right use case. Um, Now, sorry, we've shown you a couple of screenshots of PDFs in web version, but the webinar is called "What if your report could speak?" Because what we intend to show you, and what we indeed allow, is that you can also turn your portfolio reports into an audio format. Um, you might wonder, why are podcasts good? Because PDFs have worked. People can send them via email quarterly. It's never really been an issue. Sometimes you can send it via snail mail in paper format. It's a tried and true formula. But we would argue that's because, not because it's the best, but because that's the only medium pretty much we had available. But that today that's no longer the case. People, especially the younger crowd, are very much on their mobile. That has, for almost everyone, become the most used format of interacting with the digital world. Uh, the use of inboxes is not what it once was. So there are not that many people who use email as the main communication channel anymore. And a lot of conversations have moved to messaging apps or social network. Um, and oftentimes the content consumed is overwhelmingly in audio or video format. And if we look quickly at how many people listen to podcasts worldwide, uh, we can quickly understand the appeal. The trend is only going up and to the right. Today, it's estimated around 584 million people listen to podcasts in 2025. That's up from 500 million, 506 million in 2023, and it's only expected to grow in the future. And, oops, sorry, while young people do it more, it's really something that's done at every age and overwhelmingly on mobile. Um, and interestingly, because we often hear that young people don't have any attention span anymore, um, the median podcast is around 20 to 40 minutes. So it means it's possible even for young people to pay attention to somewhat long form format. So that's why we thought it would be interesting to meet investors where they are, which is in their ears, by beaming the content directly into their pocket. And that's why we made it possible to turn Storyteller into a podcast. What I will do now is show you a little bit how we put together a Storyteller report. I will do that by using a tool that we have made available on the web specifically for doing demos of Storyteller, but it is not what you would be using if you were to use Storyteller, because Storyteller is made available as an API, application programming interface. It's meant for machines to talk to machines, and then it outputs a very nice report that you can then send to your clients. But you, as a wealth manager, financial institution responsible for that communication, would not be using the tool which I am about to show you, but showing APIs in demos is really complicated. So that is why we built it. Uh, it allows you to see some of the options that we can offer. Oops. So here, for example, in my little demo portal, it's called the demo generator, I can choose the output I am going to have. So web, mobile, PDF, podcast, and I can create my own or choose a standard one. But for the purpose of the demo, I'll show you creating my own. We tell stories per period. Here I'm going to choose a quarter. So it's a second quarter of 2025. There are no limits when you construct the API question yourself, but here we've added little constraints for simplicity's sake. My portfolio will be 5 years old, dynamic, and in euro, and I can choose what assets I want for this demo. So I have a little bit of treasury bonds, some S&P 500, some inflation-linked bonds from the EU, a lot of very diversified ETF, and some gold. So I choose those assets, and then I can create some transactions. Here I won't, but this way you see. And very important for personalization, and this we don't know because we don't want your client's information. It is information you pass at the moment when you ask us to generate a report, and then we forget it forever. You can specify your client name, how they should be addressed, and you can also add a little word from the financial institution, for example, the chief investment officer or the relationship manager, which you pass in plain text. You can customize it per client, or you can use the same for an entire batch of report because you just pass it at request time. And then some of the personalization aspect, we have more, but when generating demos, this is what's possible. Adding your logo, changing your colors, choosing a theme. So similarly, when you're a StoryTeller client, you can have many themes that you choose from at report generation time, naming your expert and adding the picture, the CIO I just mentioned, choosing your fonts. And then the demo tool here is doing pretty much what StoryTeller would do in real life, which is getting the financial data on all the instruments you set the portfolio hold, generating the insights on the portfolio performance, and then using those insights, basically attribution contribution calculation, to create a data-driven story, which it will then output as a JSON structured text and PDF file. If I cheat a little because no one wants to wait 40 seconds to see a report get generated, this is the output. As you can see, I then have a PDF. I have mobile and desktop web version, and my podcast is right here. If we look then at my report, this is our web version of the report. It says, Dear Mathieu, for this Q2 with my mountain theme, where we are, how my performance is in perspective over the 5 years of my portfolio. And then it dives into the story part with the hero and the villain. The hero is here, the information technology sector that played a central role in my performance. And the news, which we can add to the stories. And then the villain is the US dollar. I will not go into too much details, but that's the story. Then for the PDF, we keep the same structure, but it's a PDF. And the star of the show today is the podcast, which our story get turned into. Similarly, I will not be playing you the 8-minute podcast. I will give you a small preview, and then because you've made it to the webinar today, we will send you a version of the podcast and of the PDF afterwards. Just a taste. Here is what StoryTeller sounds like as a podcast.
Hello, Monsieur, and welcome to summer. Your portfolio just bounced back from a challenging first quarter with a recovery that proves the power of strategic positioning in uncertain times. I'm Mark, your podcast host, and I'll be asking the questions you'd want answered about your investment journey.
And I'm Juniper, your portfolio analyst here to break down what's been happening with your investments, Monsieur.
Yep. So there you have the preview. This is how we went from a little input data about what you hold in your portfolio to a story generated in about 30 seconds. sped up for your benefit on holdings in your portfolio and reference data. And with that, I will give it back to Cesara for the remainder.
Yes, thanks, Mathieu. That was a very comprehensive outlook at StoryTeller. It was super interesting to see. Now I would like to invite Davide to present what's happening behind all this magic. Davide?
Okay, thanks, Cesara. I'm Davide, AI Tech Lead at StoryTeller, and I will show you how the podcast works under the hood. I won't go too deep into technical details. I always like to keep things simple. So I will focus on the key points about StoryTeller report generation. So to understand the podcast, you first need to understand what StoryTeller truly is. I know I'm about to ruin the beautiful presentation that Mathieu just gave, but from a technical perspective, StoryTeller is text. It's JSON to be precise, which is a text format commonly used in IT systems. So remember this, it's just text. So we generate, as said, the whole story deterministically from a text database as a large structured document. It contains the titles, the elements, the data to show in the final outcome. There is no AI at this step. That's why Mathieu said your compliance departments will like it. And the result is deterministic, it's text. So we can display it however we need, as a PDF, as a web page, as a podcast, you name it. And guess what is extremely good at working with text? You guess it, large language models. This is indeed where AI kicks in. So to create a podcast, starting from the JSON file I mentioned, we go through several steps. From the predefined story, we generate first a summary with key information using an AI model. Then another large language model converts the summary into a script, like a theater script, with characters and their lines, except it's fully AI generated. And finally, we give the script to a third AI model that specializes in generating audio. So the script is created by feeding the JSON story into a text large language model. That's why I insisted on just text. So we give the JSON to the model. We tell it to create a script following a specific prompt that we personalize and collect the results. And now we reach the most crucial part. It's why you are all present at this webinar, which is audio generation, because there are AI models specifically designed to generate audio from text. And it makes sense because the AI model doesn't really understand the difference between text, images, or audio. At the end of the day, it's generating bytes, it's generating numbers. So of course, there are some similarities, but audio models behave very differently in practice. But imagine a ChatGPT-like interface where you write, create a rock song, and it returns music. It's the same concept. It's just not generating text, it's generating audio. In our example, it generates voices. And they're more unstable, of course, because it's a much more complex task than creating some text. A voice, like we are talking, should follow a specific pattern. But that's the sense in the end. So based on the script, the summary, and the original storyteller story, we ask to the LLM line by line to generate MP3 files with the voices of our podcast host. And then it comes the sound engineering phase, adding music, putting together the files, adjusting the volumes, cleaning up the noise, fixing the timing. So it's not the fun part of the process and definitely not the fun part of this webinar, but it's essential to produce a coherent, polished podcast. And I'll show you why in a moment. Because all this journey wasn't easy, and it was full of challenges and surprises. So, because I said, those models are more unstable than a standard text-to-text model, because audio is much more difficult. So, for example, AI often creates unnatural pauses between words. You can hear something like, the return for this quarter was better than the previous one. And humans are not talking like that. It's not natural, and people immediately notice that. Just like the famous EM dashes in ChatGPT, people don't like this. So we built a system to trim silences and make speech sound more natural. We also had to deal with unexpected audio artifacts, so random noise generated by the model, which needs cleaning as well. Emotion was another challenge. Early models, especially, sounded very flat, like your portfolio went up. It's very robotic and it's not natural. Humans, are conveying emotions when they talk. So I remember I had to reverse engineer a system called emotion tagging to explain to the AI model the tone of voice to use. For example, if there is a good news, it should sound more excited. And of course, a big part of our refinement strategy was to find the right model, tune in, and balance cost, speed, and reliability. Audio models are very, very different from each other. I can tell you one of my favorite examples. So I was testing a new audio model that was excellent, except for one thing. If a word was written in all caps, it will spell it out. So it's very good for words like CIA, but some of our company names were written in all caps. So Apple was being pronounced as APPLE, and we weren't understanding why. So it was a very funny behavior of this specific model only, which we fixed with a dedicated prompt. So all of this to say that AI is full of surprises, and a lot of the job is adapting it to our needs and keeping it stable. However, I'm very hopeful about the future. There is an ongoing AI race for more powerful audio models, with giants like OpenAI and Amazon challenging the strongest runners like Eleven Labs and new startups. I expect the new models to be better, faster, and more reliable. And another big topic is AI music, which is very controversial, but we also experimented with it for the podcast. We try to generate AI generated background music, for example, or even custom intro jingles. And this was something we could only dream about until recently. So in conclusion, text-to-speech AI technology has a lot of potential, is growing more and more, and expect big things incoming.
Thanks, Davide. This was super interesting, especially the overview of the challenges and the promises Gen AI could bring on the scene. I think was super insightful. Well, with that, this webinar has approached its end, and I would invite the attendees to ask some questions. I already saw two of them in the Q&A section. The first one was regarded the updates we have done in the last 3 years. And I think Matteo would be a very good person to answer that. And also it's connected, this question is connected with the following one related to our roadmap. So maybe you could tell us a bit more of the exciting things that happened and that would happen after that.
Yes, certainly. So I see, is the video format already available, or at least in the roadmap? So there are two things. If you want videos animated on the web report, as you saw in the presentation, that is already available. The storyteller in a video format, that would be like me speaking to you now, as if I were your advisor. That is more than on the roadmap. That is seriously being worked on. We've had to, or we've decided to pivot a little bit from our initial direction, which still involved humans to a large extent, to more and more generative AI, because it turns out you can actually do a lot with Avatar today, and maybe the human side wasn't as flexible and scalable. So there we pivoted a bit, but still very much there. New agents or upgrade about the storyteller functionality with regards to the reports generated 3 years ago. So there have been a lot of functionality added since 3 years ago, both on the computation side, the configurability, the ease with which financial institution can configure it without the help of InvestSuite. Very happy to have a dedicated chat if if you had already seen StoryTeller 3 years ago, to contrast and compare what it is that we have added, like the podcast. So those are the ones I see on the roadmap. I don't know if you see any other, Cesar. I think the ones after
we're
that
still
are yours.
waiting. We're still waiting for fresh questions, and I'm curious to see what people think. We just got a new one. Hi, can you please elaborate on the accuracy of the output of a report or podcast that is automatically getting generated by AI? Is there any possibility of reports being inaccurate? Yeah, this is a good question actually for both Davide and Matteo. I don't know which one of you wants to answer that.
I can answer.
Yes.
I can answer from a technical perspective. So in my slide, if I can quickly go back at this step. So the source of everything is the JSON, and the JSON is deterministic. So the numbers in the slide, there is a number like a 0.5%. There is a very specific check to make sure that the numbers that are in there are in the podcast. So the script doesn't invent anything. So what it's doing is creating a theater script on top of it. So instead of saying percentage 5%, it's saying your portfolio went up by 5%. But it's not inventing new numbers. It's not saying your portfolio went up 5% and 3% last year. Okay, so we are very, the narration is very safe, which also has some limitations. We can be super creative with it. So it's following a specific narrative based on the data that are in StoryTeller. But also it gives us enough safety to say that it's not going to be inaccurate. If you're talking about the podcast, as Mathieu said, the reports are not inaccurate in terms of data because this is about StoryTeller and it's some broader topic, but all the data that are in StoryTeller are sent by the customer. So the data of the customer are what you see in the reports. I hope it's fine.
Oh, great. Thanks. In the meantime, we've got another question, and I think that one is for you, Davide, as well. Have you ever considered the option of generating the input data, JSON outputs, for example, and providing a notebook LM to generate the podcast, slides, and the report? Many thanks.
We literally worked on this last week. It's not a notebook LM. I think it's a Collab notebook, but that's the same point. But we also have the demo generator, which has the same logic, and it's much more elaborate than just a notebook. So in the demo generator, which is the tool that Matteo quickly showed to generate a custom report, you can either load your own JSON input or select your portfolio for a test. And you can generate everything. You can generate the podcast, the PDF, the slide, the web page, etc. So we already have either a demo generator and also an internal notebook. And if people like the notebook, it's I totally understand it. It's just a different way to use the demo generator. But behind the scenes, sorry, Mathieu, yeah, just mentioning that behind the scenes, StoryTeller is an API. So under the hood, this is just something to make request easier to StoryTeller. But StoryTeller remains an API which you can call with everything, including your MCP server from ChatGPT if you want to create one, and many other tools.
But if the reference here is to Google's Notebook LM, the magic LLM tool that generates podcasts about long scientific articles, we have indeed done that. So we just gave the output JSON to Notebook LM. We've done it with a Gemma to see if it could make slides as well. It does. It says something, of course, because it's physically incapable of not doing it, I guess. But you do not get the fine-grained level of control which you can get when we do the end-to-end pipeline. Because like Davide explained, we have prompts and we're checking that the numbers match. We customize the scenario. We can say whether we want the podcast to be roughly 2 minutes or roughly 8 minutes. We can change the music so that the intro and in between section music fits with your audio identity if you already have one, or the one you're about to build if you don't have one yet. All of that is a level of control you don't have when you dump data into Notebook LM. So it would work, but you would have very little control over the output.
Great. In the meantime, we have a lot of new questions, but I will take one question upon myself as a content expert for StoryTeller. Somebody asks how to ensure the story and the podcast is sufficiently varied quarter after quarter and it does not repeat. Yeah, in terms of the content and the story, we're very diligent with always upgrading and making sure the text and the copy is well, very personalized and crafted and updated from time to time. One, we have seasonal copy. Two, we have copy for different hobbies or this in the making. So technically, we're working on text variation and text richness, all in trying to target certain context and emotions and feelings and trying to, yeah, make the report, even if it's a PDF, be sort of empathetic with the reader. So it feels less like a report and more like a story. So yeah, I hope this answers your question. If anybody wants to answer any more question in less than a minute, that would be great, but I don't think that's possible. Thanks everybody for joining and making time. I will, if anybody wants to add anything else, Matteo, Davide.
Yeah, just if your question hasn't been answered, feel free to drop us a message. Our email addresses will be in the follow-up PDF report you get from StoryTeller, so we can schedule a call if you have more questions or if they come to you later.
Exactly. That was what I was going to tell. Of course, this is an overview of StoryTeller's brand new feature, the podcast that has been in the working for a long time. So it's just one side of StoryTeller. If you'd want to see more of it in all its beauty, you can schedule a demo or just email us, and we'll be more than happy to follow up with any detail that you might ask. Until then, I wish you all a good morning, evening, depends where you're joining from. Thanks, Davide and Matteo, again for joining me on this webinar, and I hope to see everybody on another occasion, maybe.